Hi BookTube, it's Amy. I'm back again with another short story from Honoré de Balzac. This one is called Le Grande Breteche, and it was published in 1831. And it's a sequel, a continuation of the dinner party that was happening in Balzac's previous short story, Another Study of Woman. Although the two stories are really related in no way at all, apart from the fact that it is a continuation of this dinner party conversation. And the story is built a little bit like a Russian nesting doll, like a Matryoshka doll, because it is a story within a story within a story. And so we have this dinner party conversation where the guests were just getting ready to leave, but one character, the doctor, he's referred mostly throughout the story as the doctor, but we do in fact learn that his full name is Monsieur Biancan, but he's just referred to the doctor throughout the story. The doctor sort of stops everybody and says, I have one more story that I save exactly for this point in dinner parties when I feel it's appropriate, because for a little bit of context, everyone around this dinner table has just been sort of brought very low to this dark place by the story of a woman who was murdered by her husband after sleeping with his boss, essentially with his colonel in the military. Everyone has just heard this horrifying story. Some of the ladies were getting ready to leave, and the doctor calls everybody back and says, stay a little bit longer and listen to this very interesting story I have to tell about this house that I came across when I was staying in the provinces several years ago. And the house is called Breteche. That is the name of this estate, and it's this very dilapidated but very grand house with the remnants of gardens and fruit orchard. There are trellises everywhere that indicates that the owner of the house once loved fine fruits. There are hedges that are overgrown, and the doctor, while staying in this community in the village of Vendôme, where this house is located, loved to scale these hedges and go for walks on the property. He felt that since it was abandoned, it would be all right to walk on it. But this mysterious house becomes even more mysterious when a man comes to see him at the inn where he is staying, and a notary, the notary at Vendôme, called Monsieur Rengault. And Monsieur Rengault is asking him not to trespass any longer. And if he trespasses again, he'll have to have him charged. He says, although the house looks as though it's abandoned, it's really not. And the notary says that he is in charge of looking after this house. And due to very bizarre events surrounding the death of the lady who lived in that house, it must be left abandoned and untouched and untrespassed on for 50 years. And the notary is in fact relieved that the doctor only walked about the grounds and didn't try to enter the house at all, because if he had entered the house, the grounds of the previous owner's will would have been invalidated, which would have cost the notary and his heirs eventual ownership of the house. The notary sits in the inn with our doctor for quite a while, probably an hour or two, talking and telling him the story of this property. And Monsieur Rengault says, she left her property to the hospital at Vendôme, accepting of a few legacies, but these were her instructions as relating to La Grande Breteche. She ordered me to leave the place for 50 years, counting from the day of her death, in the state in which it might be at the time of her decease, forbidding anyone, whomever he might be, to enter the apartments, prohibiting any repairs whatever. And so, of course, the doctor is quite intrigued by this story, and he wants to know why. And so he goes and he talks to a maid at the inn he's staying at, who was once known to work up in this house for the lady who owned it. And the maid's name is Rosalie, and she becomes quite distressed when asked about this house and recounts a tale of her own. A tale of perhaps her mistress having an affair, a tale that leads to the woman's husband seeking revenge on his wife, leading her to this break in her marriage and to utter despair that leads to an illness where she doesn't even call for a doctor. She just calls for the priest to give her last rites and dies without seeking medical attention, and leading her husband before her death to have gone off to Paris, where he himself died. And so there was this massive rupture that took place because of an event in this mysterious house. And our doctor also speaks to the landlady who owns this inn where he's staying and asks her about this house, about what could have happened with this couple who lived there. And the landlady tells him a story about a Spanish gentleman who once stayed in the inn and who mysteriously disappeared. The Spanish man would go off on long walks without telling anyone where he was going. He was sometimes seen swimming in the water, and one day he didn't return to the inn at all, and they found among his possessions several diamonds, several gold pieces worth several £1,000s, and a note asking the owners of the inn to tell everyone that he had escaped and that he was not to be found, and telling them that they could keep this diamonds and this gold. And so there's that mystery as well that is attached to the house. And I won't spoil the ending for you. I won't spoil the details of the mystery for you, but it is quite horrifying once you get down to the bare details of what actually happened in this house. And Balzac ends the story by taking us out of the story told by the doctor and back into the dinner party, where in a few lines Balzac tells us that they departed for the evening, and that is the end of that dinner party. And so it's a story within a story within a story, if you want to put it that way. You have the doctor telling the story about how he was told a story. And then, of course, you have Balzac as the narrator also telling us the story of this story. And I'm not opposed to this sort of structure. In fact, I think it worked quite well. But the dinner party layer didn't have much of anything to offer here at all. Rather, the value in it was as a continuation of the previous story. And I think they really do have to be read together. So if you're thinking of reading this one, definitely go back and read Another Study of Woman before you embark on this one.